What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Hollywood Already Did It, your movie podcast for things that have been rebooted, remade, retold, readapted, and all those other words that studios put together with a focus group to figure out if audiences are bored of hearing of them or not. They'll find a new one. We did requel and reboot and retread and everything else. They'll figure it out. As always, I'm your host, Blake Schultz, and with me is Terrence Tatum.
Hello, everyone.
And this week, speaking of things that have been done 1,000 times, we are doing The Bride, the most recent interpretation of The Bride of Frankenstein, a movie part of the Universal Horror Monsters that has a longer history than I'm willing to do in an intro. Uh,
No.
but if that's a whole video and podcast
It
of just
is.
that. But it's The Bride of Frankenstein. It was technically the sequel to Frankenstein. We got black and white versions of it. We got all these other versions of it. And now Maggie Gyllenhaal's taking a swing at it with Christian Bale as Frankenstein. And let's get into this because there's so many things to talk about at once with this. I feel the same way I did about Scream, where I just want to start going beat by beat and yell about the movie, but I won't. So instead, I'll just be like, "What did you think?"
Um, I've never, this is going to be a hard review for me because I've never had a film where I liked so much of the movie or so many things that the movie was doing and did not like the movie. And I'm trying to wrap my head around how that's possible. I think this movie, Maggie is swinging for the fences. I don't think she has any direction of where she's going or sitting the ball, but she is swinging for the fences. And it's good and bad. And this movie becomes sort of a hodgepodge of ideas of like different things that were positive. We're gonna be Bonnie and Clyde. We're gonna be sort of young Frankenstein. We're gonna have a love couple. We're gonna have this mob thing that's happening, and all of these things sort of become in this hodgepodge, and none of them really lead anywhere. And so I'm sitting here with like two really solid performances. I think both Jesse as the bride and Christian as our Frankenstein do really well, and they become sort of this we don't have anything else in life and death couple and relationship, another toxic relationship that Warner Brothers gives us. But it's like everything else that happens around them is just so, while it's stylishly good, is boring. It doesn't really lead to a point. There's no sort of thing that makes me go from beginning, middle to end. I think it starts with the beginning. For me, I had a hard time, and I don't know why this was chosen, but the framing device of putting this behind Mary Shelley
Is it a framing device or
almost
is it
took me
just an
out of the movie.
interruptive thought in the movie?
Yeah, it almost,
Because
I
framing
was like,
devices frame things.
why is this a choice? And why did no one tell her, no, this shouldn't be the case?
But
Anytime
to
it kept
your
coming up,
point, it's an interesting choice.
it
To
swings for the
your
fences. You're
point,
like,
it got me right away pulled in. Immediately, I'm
it
pulled
did.
into this black and white, super close up on Mary Shelley's face and her doing this like Shakespearean,
Hmm.
oh man, what's the word? Where they're the aside, they're talking to the
Monologue.
audience. Well, yes, but
It's
when like the
almost like
rest of
a
the
soliloquy. Yeah, like
soliloquy, that's what I'm looking
yeah.
for.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. And like,
Um,
it worked. And then seeing Jesse Buckley do this great performance of having these like ticks of being half possessed, and I was like, oh, this movie's about to do some stuff that I'm into. And then it drops it. Or when it comes in again, it's just so random and there's no real rhyme or reason to it anymore. It's like you had a great start off point, and then it's kind of just like, I don't know what else to do with this from this point. It's a thesis to start the story, and then I'm gonna like, I don't know where to go from this,
and
but I
it
already introduced this.
and it becomes extremely confusing because we open with it and it's cool and it like kind of brings you back to like the 1930s black and white vibe. I liked the idea of it being like Mary Shelley almost in purgatory,
Hmm.
not knowing where she is, but I'm not done telling my story. And I've been trying to get this in forever. And then even this illusion of like there's a crack and I can get in. And then you're right, we do this really cool possessed. She's changing her accent.
Hmm.
She's making out with people. She starts the dead remember everything. You cut out their tongues. He's the worst of them. You did the da, 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 da. And I was like, I can't figure out if this is going to be one, what time period we're in when the possession
Yeah,
happens. Because I
yeah.
immediately was like, oh, is this actually a possession story? and it's going to be that she's literally possessed by
Hmm.
the ghost of Mary Shelley and is going to go make a Bride of Frankenstein in the real world or something along that? Or is this a stranger than fiction situation
Hmm.
where the bride knows she's in a book?
Right.
What are we doing? Because then we do that whole sequence, she dies, and then it is just the Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
It is then just, and not even the Bride of Frankenstein, because the original Bride of Frankenstein is Frankenstein we think is dead. He comes back. We go back to the tower. We resurrect it. She does reject them. So it is a modern interpretation that's still opting to be set in the
It's like
1930s.
36, I believe. 36, like from
Yeah.
early 30s, which they actively choose not to bring it up, but this is the time when women's suffrage is a big thing, and the movie actively acts as if that's not a part of it,
Yeah,
which
but
is
then it also does.
yeah. Yeah, because they
but
have the whole
but
women
then
writers
but then
sort
later
of
it's the entire point of the
it's the
movie
thesis
and
of
then
the film.
also is dropped.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and then put back in once people are leaving the theater in the post like yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it feels like this was supposed to be like an HBO miniseries, and they were like, no, because there are multiple plots, and
Hmm.
I kept looking for the why. I kept being like, well, what are we? So many of these old horror monsters have a deeper theme. A lot of Night of the Living Dead has
Yeah.
racism, and Day of the Dead has consumerism, and Old Frankenstein is that like we're the monsters, and the Bride of Frankenstein is about rejection, and Dracula is about syphilis, and we all of these real
Hmm.
world things. So I kind of kept being like, we've made such a conscious choice to not make this the way the Wolfman or Invisible Man, where we're just kind of taking it and going in a modern time. We're deliberately being like, Mary Shelley is here and she's not done telling her stories.
Right.
And so I kept being like, ooh. And then right when Frankenstein, Christian Bale, has his explosion with the new mad scientist, where he's like, this is about loneliness. A part of me was like, oh, are we going to do like a male loneliness problem
Story.
of like
Yeah.
you're so driven by loneliness that you're the monster and like we're gonna see
Yeah.
her rejected and we're gonna do it kind of in the way Creature Commandos did it on HBO Max of like he's driven insane that the bride is not
Not
doing what
returning
she's
his
supposed to
affection.
be
Yeah.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I made
Um,
you for this purpose and she has independence.
right.
And we do that in that scene so fast. We so quickly
It burns through it
cover
quickly.
everything about that idea. Is she
Yeah.
comes to life, hits all the beats of what that story is, and is just like, I'd rather not get married, darling. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. It's and then it speeds through, and all of a sudden, the choice of being with Frank is kind of almost now being like, well, we're the only two freaks here, so we got each other to sort of back each other up. And then they try to keep going back. It's like, well, I didn't get to make a choice. I'm choosing now. My choice is I'm not going to be the bride of Frankenstein. I'm going to be the bride. I'm like, well, that's not enough of a push to say you have some sort of onus on yourself. And I'm still going in the back of my mind, that doesn't jive with the thing of Mary Shelley doing all of this. Like none of the
yeah.
things that you're doing in present day or in like the world match what it is that we got from that huge speech at the beginning from Mary Shelley. So it doesn't, these things,
No, yeah,
oh,
nothing.
nothing in this movie connects. And that's where I
No.
kind of kept having a problem. Like, I keep stopping and starting with some good ideas that just don't lead to anything.
This is sort of the like the movie version of filling your cup with all the sodas at the soda stream and
Hmm.
it tastes bad.
That's
Because
exactly
like
what that is. Yeah.
and it's why even now I'm like, man, is it my ADHD or is this movie so jumbled that I can't talk about why the Mary Shelley thing doesn't work without talking about why Bonnie and Clyde doesn't work without talking about why the loneliness doesn't work. Um, and that's the problem is like none of it work. If we choose one thread, and I kind of dug the almost like noir detective.
I dug that
We're
part
gonna have these
with
people following it.
Skarsgård and Penelope. Yeah.
she can't remember everything. We have another kind of feminist through line with the like,
Hmm.
this is my secretary, but she does all the work. And
Yeah.
I think that's fun, but it's not up to me to promote her. Oh,
Right.
I support women. I just do nothing for them,
I
darling.
just don't, right. I just don't speak up for
I love
them.
women so much that I completely stay away from them unless I can have sex with them for
Unless
information.
they can, right, unless I can screw a witness, then it's
I
fine.
just like, and I kind of liked that we had this bride character who like instinctively knows who's bad, but can't remember why, paired up with a monster because we do get to see him at the bar when she's dancing and free, and he's like, "Oh,
Hmm.
I don't do this,
Right.
but I'll sit and
But
watch
I
my wife
enjoy
do it."
you and I love you're such a spitfire that I'm okay with you going to be who
Yeah,
you are. Yeah.
there is something endearing about that they don't really do a lot with,
Yeah.
of like, oh, he will accept her and
As she
he
is.
probably won't change and he's
Right.
not really going to make her change. And then we get probably the most brutal, and it's a bummer we never do it again, but he
Yeah.
curb stomps these two assholes.
To remember how strong and how powerful Frank
And
truly
then
is.
and then to your point earlier, Christian, every the performances of this movie are great, and the transatlantic accents are great, and
Yes.
it makes the ride fun enough that none of the things we're talking about bother you until about
Until
30
you
seconds after the movie ends.
until you're walking
Yeah,
out the theater, you're like, wait a minute. Wait.
yeah, yeah.
I will say one thing that worked for me, again, didn't really have a true payoff, but I did like the Frank finding some sort of thing to latch onto, and he latched on so much that he in his brain became a friend with the actor that Jake Gyllenhaal played. Like
Oh yeah.
and when he finally
I,
got to meet him, it was almost like I'm having a conversation with you because I've had a conversation with the film version of you for all of this time that you and I are one on one. And Jake's like, what are you?
well, and this
That
is
part worked.
another, and it's another thing where like, and yeah, I love because it was another piece too for our podcast where I try to be like, well, why are we telling this story today? We do have so many parasocial relationships that get
Hmm.
created between fans and creators. And
Very
it's not
much.
that new because it's happened for all of time. People get so attached to actors or
Correct.
musicians or athletes, whoever, but we are seeing it more and more when people have access to it. And we're seeing the people who are like, oh, these are my friends.
Hmm.
And we've had conversations because I've listened to you in my car and like look at what I'm doing like you. Um, and it's another moment where Frank is rejected.
Hmm.
And unlike when the bride first rejects him, there is no moment where Jake Gyllenhaal learns about him. Like I think what they did well
Right.
with the bride rejecting him and then getting to know him, especially when he's like, "Run away, don't be with me. I'm
Like you need
bad
to go.
news.
I'm terrible.
I've
Yeah.
I've done this."
Yeah.
And then she stays, and we it's a little unclear if she stays because she's like feels bad or if she's like I don't know where I live. Like
I
I
don't
don't
know where I go. And you, since you've done this for so
you
long, I feel like I might be the safest with you. It is
also
unclear.
you did this to me. Like I was
Right.
dead.
Like
I
I
was
didn't stump
fine.
that person in the head
Yeah.
because it sucks because I do think that there's a scenario where based on how she lived when she was alive, she would have just given herself up to these dudes and kind of just gone with the flow, which sucks. That would have been terrible. So Frank, in a way, did save her, but she would have gotten out of that situation in a different, much more
Yeah,
terrible way.
and in theory she was working with a cop who
Hmm.
would have eventually done the right thing.
Although it sounds like he may have become smitten by her, and like who knows, that line might have got blurry with
Yeah.
him to the point where he just walks. This happens a lot in this one, where he just leaves the movie. He's like, you know what? It's yours now. I'm out.
I'm
I love
done.
you.
Yeah, and yeah, that was an interesting thing, and I would have liked because it's the same thing with the Jake Gyllenhaal character. He meets him, he gets rejected. They have their big don't shoot
Don't shoot.
moment.
Yeah.
They run off together. She's like, "Let's fuck because it'll help us sleep,"
Yeah.
which did make me laugh. And then he's like, "No," and then they fuck anyways.
Yeah.
And
That
now
was
they're
what
like,
was interesting because like he rejected her oral job, but then like two scenes later, he's like, you know what? I've changed my mind. I want
and
this now.
I did kind of enjoy but you know, it's funny because I liked the idea and then I didn't like the execution because later I realized I was confused because she asks him what sex and love was like before this happened to him. And he was like, it was exquisite. It was connection and it was this and it was deep and and I thought that it was an honest moment where he was
Hmm.
like, before I was dead, or even like, this is how it was before you were a sex worker. This is how sex used to
Hmm.
be before all of this. Then later, when she's talking about this, like before the accident, I was like, oh, these are all lies he's telling her. This is all he's saying their love and their sex and
Mm.
their and then I couldn't figure out if I was interpreting it wrong or missed a beat, but I was like, oh, what I thought was them connecting on the fact that they're both reanimated is actually him like gaslighting her while they try to figure out her name. Because then you have the scene in the car with the like, oh,
Yeah.
and I have the ring and I propose, and even that because they're both laughing, I was like, I can't tell if they're in agreement that this is
This
bullshit,
is BS.
that
Yeah.
we're just telling this story.
It read to me as if she was in because there's a bit of naivete that exists with Ida that I felt like she was reading this like, oh, okay, that is what's happened. Where I think you're correct. Frank is actively gaslighting her until she sort of gets the onus on herself. And my problem with it is that where's the Mary Shelley piece of this? Because I feel like Mary Shelley would have told her, hey, stop, this is BS.
Well, that is, and this is what I mean by it's not a framing device because we haven't talked about Mary Shelley for like 10 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
Because then she just randomly pops in to either be like, "What's your name, darling?" Um, or like, "Where's your rage gone?" Like she just has these weird, and we're not doing it where like she's both anymore. We
No.
haven't done that once. Um, and yeah, at no point is Mary Shelley popping in and being like, "This isn't the story I'm writing."
Right.
Like, and so like we haven't decided what we're doing with Mary Shelley because it is now like she's either a literal like ghost who's possessed this woman. It is either a Will Ferrell Stranger Than Fiction situation where
Hmm.
on some level the bride is aware that she's a book.
That it's
On
a like
some
I'm being
level,
puppeteered in some way.
yeah.
Right.
Or we really are watching. Oh man, I can't think of a movie or show that would have done this, but like an inverse of Stranger Than Fiction, where what we're watching is Shelley struggling to write, and instead being like, no, 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 Frankenstein, they shouldn't be together anymore.
There is a
Because
movie.
that
I
would
can't
make the
think of it
movie
right
better,
now.
actually.
Yeah,
If it turns out
I
that this is
can't
Mary Shelley
where
struggling to write, it would,
she then like scratches it out and throws it away like nope, that's not gonna work and like keep
yeah,
going. There's a movie that does that. I can't remember what it is, but yes, I know what you mean.
not Argyle,
No, a little bit, but that's a false narrator because the
yeah,
inside the story, it's a person who knows that they're writing a book.
right,
But
yeah,
yeah,
but no, yeah, there is something where they're ripping it
yeah.
out, and then yeah, but which would also explain why so many things in the movie don't work. It turns out that the twist of the movie is it's Mary Shelley trying to write and she has
And she
writer's
just
block or
keep
something.
right.
That then I'd be like, "Ooh, well done. Nothing
Because
did
then I can
work.
accept why it's
She
so
should erase this."
yeah. Yes, but that would explain why I felt so disjointed because when this was all over I sat there for a minute and while the movie was still doing its credits and showing like the women, another piece that we didn't really bring up, through her scenario, women sort of start gravitating towards the bride and her makeup and whatnot. They start dressing as her and sort of create this movement. And then in that, they go after the mob boss. That was the person that sort of started
Yeah,
all of her
been
ticks
cutting
and
out
whatnot.
women's tongues.
Tongues, yeah. But while that was all happening, I was sitting there like, I'm so confused, and not confused in a way of like I didn't understand. I understood everything. It just didn't make any sort of
Nothing,
sense
not
together. Like it didn't
nothing
make.
coalesced.
Yeah, and I
Nothing,
was like,
nothing
there are great
coalesced.
ideas that are happening. Even the dance sequence, like, oh, there's a little bit of young Frankenstein dancing. I dig, like, you can tell that Maggie is a big fan of monster movies because they are all sort of in this. But then she starts adding in other things that then when you put it all together, you're like, this, it's like Frank. You
Yeah,
sewed it all together, but it doesn't come together as
it
well as Frank
is.
does.
It is a Frankenstein of
It is.
genres and ideas. It
Yeah.
is because there are still so many things we haven't talked about. So I like I'm almost like I have to like speed run through every movie within this movie. Because we get this like what should be a cool noir detective story that it just keeps falling. It keeps hitting the same beats of oh the secretary does all the work.
Hmm.
He doesn't really do anything about it. No one really listens to her. He doesn't help. He never once makes them listen. He kind of tries to play it up like that's their
Like that's the
thing.
shtick. That's the thing
Like
we do. And she can
like
tell that it's like she's like, I don't think that's our shtick. And but he's like, look, I'm
yeah.
gonna pull them this
He's
way
like,
and
yeah,
say,
I
oh,
get
they're
to
a
do
woman. Yeah.
this.
And
And
then
I
you
oh
go do the actual detective work.
and you know what? I wouldn't have minded that if he was like better at helping women. I wouldn't have minded a
If that was his
detective
overall thing, because you're like, hey,
if
you are a purveyor of women, but because of the way that you treated Ida when she was alive,
the
you don't get to be this beacon or quote unquote
yeah, and
women's beacon because it's
he
not true.
never he never says it like it is there like good cop bad cop. He uses it as like an excuse to not have to be better. And
Correct.
I don't hate the idea of if he is like this really smart detective and he's like and if she's in on it, if they both are in agreement of like these are the times
Hmm.
they're not going to take me seriously, but since they're not taking me seriously, you
Can you
can
do
go over
this?
there
Right.
and I
It's
can
not
like
something
do
they agreed
all the
upon.
stuff that
Yeah,
they're
it's not
missing.
something they
Yeah,
agreed upon.
right.
And because they didn't agree upon it, it seems like he's using it to your point as a
He's
like,
just a
hey,
dick. Yeah.
yeah. And then when he does the dick move, when we learn through the story that he does the dick move to Ida and basically just slept with a witness, you're like, okay, well, hold on. Now this guy just
Yeah.
might not be a grimy people to women. He may think that he's a purveyor of women or a help for women, but he's not helping at all.
Because it is also odd. And now we can get to the gangster stuff that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because and then we'll get to the end. That's how we'll do it. We'll do all these weird Bonnie and Clyde love story things, and then we'll get to the end. The feminist rage, the punk rock stuff that was also barely there. But yeah, the gangster stuff then is we meet the gangster. We know he's bad because we're told he's bad. We
Hmm.
know he cuts out tongues because we're told he cuts out tongues. This is the other biggest problem with the movie is like we get one brutal scene of Frankenstein
Yeah.
that she doesn't really respond to, even though she clearly gets mad when people do violent things.
She's
Um,
not frightened or
phased.
even phased or
I'm
like
fine with her not
it's
being
not frightened or
phased.
turned on. Like she just there's nothing to it.
I'm fine
And
with her not being phased if the conceit is she's seen this gangster do equally
I've seen
shitty
stuff like this
things.
before. And
But what makes that not work is she never has a conversation. As far as I know, Frankenstein isn't even aware of this gangster man who cut out women's tongues.
us as an audience never get her telling him that
And
story. Yeah.
and there would be something cathartic of taking a character that the world sees as a monster and taking a gangster who's like working in the shadows and having the bride be like, "Oh, I know who the real monster is," and having Frankenstein
Yeah,
fuck him up.
I think that
Like,
is a piece of where my issue is too, because I'm sitting there in the credits and this is happening in the background with the women taking, and I like, yeah, I'm cool with the women giving her back, but that's an afterthought, that's an after story. The better story would have been like, hey, I'm telling Frank, the person that I'm now attached to, this happened to me, and this person is responsible for my death, and I got here. Can you be whatever you just did? Can we turn that face that towards a bigger monster? I think that would have been at least a more interesting story.
can
You can
we?
still do a lot of the pieces that you had. You can still have the detective noir, but there has to be a
Well,
beat
then,
where the catharsis piece of this happens in the movie, in the main movie, but with our main characters, not with some people that are don't really have
right?
anything to do with our story.
Or get the whole team together. You
Yeah.
could have very easily been like have some moment where everyone's scared. You could have taken Frankenstein off the board for a minute. Ida
Yeah.
could have gone with the detectives and been like, we can finish this off, find a way for her to figure out her memory or just use her as a compass, go get all the women who are pissed off. We know where he is.
Hmm.
And then just have Frankenstein see it somewhere and have a like that's the real monster.
Yeah.
Like you guys were afraid of me, but like I can do something good. And
And
then
it's
you can have your whole squad go do this. But because the gangster we also see once, then we see him again when he's just like, yeah, dick being put to work or whatever he says to that guy when he's like, we have a baby. And he's like, you can fuck when you have a baby.
yeah.
Like, there's
Yeah.
no plan. The gangsters don't seem to have a plan.
They don't. They seem very
Um,
unorganized. They have the meeting when he meets with them, and then he shoots the one who sort of talks back, loosely talks back to him. He really doesn't say
yeah,
anything that's directly like
good
offensive.
chance for us to
Just
see a tongue get cut out. We don't see that
yeah,
once.
yeah. And then he shot him in the head. I'm like, well, this would have been the point. If you're telling me this person is as bad as he is, a gunshot is very rudimentary. Like we've seen that before. Like if you're saying that this person is as violent as he is, like I need to see that in that moment to
It should
get
have at least been as violent as what
make
Frankenstein does to
him
those
the
guys.
monster. Correct. Like if you're going to say that he's an equal monster and from her alive time, he needs to do something as violent as what Frank just did to bashing those folks' head in. And it's not a one to one. So he just feels like a throwaway character now. Like oh well,
Right.
he's nothing here.
Yeah. Which is kind of how the women they call them riots, I think. They're like the women riots. They're painting them
The
like the
female
bride,
rioters,
their
yeah, yeah, yeah.
tongue.
Hmm.
Um, we don't really see because like to your point, we kind of ignore that women's suffrage is going on.
Yeah.
And then we see them do some stuff.
So it's weird because like they take the photos of them in that alley when everything goes down, and they gravitate towards her just because of her aesthetics. Understandably, she looks badass. Um,
She also is
but
like front and center then at the Jake Gyllenhaal second sighting.
correct. So like there are moments when people, and that's when she does have a moment where she in the movie theater, that one guy is groping up the girl and she stops
Right.
that. And so that probably starts the seed of that. And then people are like, okay, I know people are freaking her out and freaking out, but she sat there in the theater like, no, I kind of dig her. She worked with me. So the seeds are positive. I just don't think because of we've seen her enough, there have been photos of her. I don't think the media is used enough in this movie to blow her up to the level where we're expected to believe that the female writers sort of it came out of this. This
No,
seems so
it's
underground that I don't believe that, especially considering that we're traveling different cities, which they try to hide. But like we go from
it's
Chicago to New York and then like in a blip.
it's seconds. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's another thing that we're just told that this is happening, but we never see like our detectives never come into contact with them. Our gangsters never come into contact with them. The gangsters aren't really even looking for the bride. Like
No.
you have this woman now who's on the news and knows all of your gangster secrets. You'd think that he would be like that. What we would
Hunt
have
her
is
down.
a
Yeah.
detectives chasing them, gangsters chasing them, and then at each city they go to, if they found these pockets of resistance bride tattooed people who like help them get away from each of those, climaxing into it being that like Ida knows the detective. Now we're reworking the whole movie, but that's how frustrating it is because all these
Hmm.
pieces are there, um, and we don't do anything with it. And then we
Yeah.
just kill the gangster. And another very disappointing ending is then that just some guy, I don't even know that we saw that much of the movie, is also a crooked cop. So in their 11th hour, he tells her everything. She understandably gets mad. They are now being trailed by the detective and a crooked cop. And then they have their like, my name is the bride, and they dance, and she quickly forgives him.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I'd rather not marry you, or whatever. And
Hmm.
then he gets shot in the
He got
head.
shot. Yeah. And then she freaks out. I was like,
Then we
this is
have to,
happening so what is going on? Like that whole sequence gave my head a spin because like they were doing stuff with the theater and showing them as being transposed on the theater. I mean on the screen. This is happening. Penelope Cruz's detective is there. Then all of a sudden some random people just I was like, what is
what are we
this?
doing? Like, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Because it is also that weird thing where it's like nothing's gotten so big that it's not like the local police are like, oh, this is the head of those riots.
Right.
And in the gangster, like there's no agency for them to get them other than people are aware of.
Yeah,
Then they killed, really, it's they killed two people. The detectives are on that case,
correct.
and the head of the
And the
mob.
cop, the one cop on the train,
Yeah.
gets shot, but they don't know who did it. They don't know which of the two, whether it be
No,
Frank or
that's
Ida
her.
shot them.
That's Penelope Cruz is like just a hunch. And you're like,
Yeah,
okay, so she also just intuits,
right. Yeah.
um, or she's just that smart, but I whatever. Also, though, that's another problem I have is like they're reading this thing about Frankenstein and like Frankenstein, can the kids get more creative than this? But like the mad scientist is like, oh, you are
Knows the
Frankenstein.
history of
I know the
Frankenstein.
history of
Right.
it. So is this a world where, again, am
Frankenstein,
I
like,
am I
are
in
we
Mary
assuming that the
Shelley's
first
book,
Frank, right? Are we assuming that the first Frankenstein movie existed and people were chasing him with pitchforks, or did that not happen? And I'm just assuming that this is the jumping off
or
point.
or is the book of Frankenstein in this world? That did Mary Shelley write a book called Frankenstein in this
And
world?
this is what this is like. People are like, oh, that's a fiction. That can't be Frankenstein because that's not a real thing. Or did
Once again,
Frankenstein actually
positing,
happen? Yeah,
what is Mary Shelley in this? Is she a
yeah.
ghost? Is she a possession? Is she just a voice?
Like, I want to continue my
Um,
story. Yeah, it's
Very confusing. Then we
very
get the
confusing.
weirdest exposition dump from the mad scientist, where she's just like, I knew how to do this the whole time, and I brought back my husband, but he wasn't my husband, so I killed him,
So I
and
had to axe him.
I don't want to do this. And then
Yeah,
the bride just pulls a gun and is like, fix it. And then
yeah,
they just blow her away.
yeah. Shoot her
And
dead.
then
Holy hell.
Penelope Cruz walks out. She gets to show off the badge. She's in charge. That's the end of her arc.
Yeah,
She also
she.
gets to be like, by the way, someone's getting away from the fire escape. Guys,
Yeah,
go get him. He's
go
a
get
crooked
him.
cop. Why aren't you
And they
getting him?
right. I was like, you are the lead detective. You should go
You
get him.
don't care about these people.
Yeah, like you.
at,
That's my thing. So like,
at no point is she on Ida and Frankenstein's team.
you can't right, and you can't tell me that that story you just heard in that little 3 minutes switched your transition to be like, I care about these folks now. I just watched this girl get shot to
Both,
holy hell. These two
I was
freaks,
like,
I want them to fall in love and be
he
together.
does, I guess he does yell, don't let them kill her.
Yeah,
He does have
he
that. And
does
he
give
does
that.
tell her that she was like a witness. I guess that's also where I was
Right.
confused. She's just a witness. She wasn't like working on she wasn't like
She
getting
didn't
more
sound
stuff
like she
for him.
was a informant or like undercover.
Okay.
It
She
doesn't
just
it sounded like
witnessed
she witnessed something and then they were about to go to trial
and then
and
he
got
banged
into
her.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Can you not be a witness once you've
But
been
it sounded
banged
like
by a
she was
cop? Is that a
still,
thing?
but it seemed like she was still, no, it's not a thing. But it
That
seemed
can't
like
be
she
right.
was
Like
still involved because she was still at the table with the gangsters. So that
I was
part doesn't
very
make sense.
that's what I mean by I just kept being like,
They
wait.
said witness, but she might have had to been an
Because
informant
if
because
she
she
was
seemed
a
like she was still
witness,
in it. She seemed like she was still in it.
yeah, because if she was, in theory, if she was a witness, there was a crime that witness that went to trial. He slept with her. They still did the trial. She still
She
did the
would be
witnesses
then, but if
thing.
she was a witness, she would be
Why
in
would she
hiding.
be at the,
Right.
yeah,
She wouldn't be
that
there.
doesn't track.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's why I kept being like, oh, she was working on the thing that was going to like, this is the like
This is gonna be the
Batman. We're
final.
going to
We're gonna get
bring
that last
Falcone
right.
down.
Like, yeah, we're gonna get
Yeah.
that last piece that brings because, like, to your
Because
point,
this also kept having like, this is a Batman script someone had. This is like,
I
she was supposed to be
one,
Harley Quinn.
yeah, this felt like Harley Quinn's true story. As oh, this the vibes this movie keeps getting. It does feel like it's the B version or the backup version of what they had for a
Yeah.
Harley story.
Or it
Yeah,
is her audition piece for James Gunn's
right.
universe. This is the like, yeah, um,
But yeah, the
yeah.
one that there is no onus or purpose for Penelope Cruz's detective to all of a sudden be like, nah, I believe them outside of the sort of even if her Skarsgård's cop told her like, don't let them kill her. That has happened. Like
Oh yeah,
she got shot to hell. It was like, well, I failed at that. So then doing your job to not be a good detective makes zero sense in that own. It's
and
like, well, I failed at that.
she also still walks up with her like cockiness that she always has. There is no like, you have no idea what you've
Yeah,
done. She just
yeah.
walks out and she's like, stop
Like,
shooting, all of you.
stop
I'm
shooting.
in charge here.
It's
There's a
me.
crooked cop calling out. Crawling out
Yeah.
of the backyard. Call it a hunch, darling. Go get her. Darling,
Yeah.
take as much time as you need getting ready. I'll be outside for your witness, but don't worry,
Yeah.
don't be in a rush. Take your
And like
time. And
you
I'm like,
can't
what
tell
is
me
happening?
and you can't tell me that in this day and age with the way that men believe in women, that they're all those cops are going to go downstairs and be like, all right, I believe this woman who just flashed me that badge of
It
detective, and
is
then let that light show happen upstairs and no one bat an
it
eye.
is wild that the movie kind of posits once you have a badge, sexism is done.
We've
Because the
solved
guy's
it.
like, who am I taking order? Which, to be fair, he's not saying that because she's a woman at that moment.
No,
She has
he's like,
walked
I
around,
don't know
she has
who.
come out of the shadows. She has emerged as a witness to a crooked cop, a murder, a confession of several murders, and
Yeah,
apparently just stood there long enough. I also would be like, who?
hold on. Who am I working for? What are we doing here?
It's just like, what? It also is like, so wait, were they private investigators? Because that's how that felt. But then it's like,
It
actually, no, we're
felt
state
like,
police
but
crossing
then, but they
state
crossed
lines.
state lines.
This
Yeah,
is what I mean. If this is Mary Shelley writing and at the end she had just been like, Control, Alt, Delete, I would have been like, oh.
bravo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because then, oh my God. And then we'll talk a little bit about the box office. And I guess we already covered the stuff they tried to do well enough. But then they're dead. And the Igor of this movie, who is also now painted her mouth, her face, even
yes.
though at first she was like, they're
Even though she seemed
scary.
like I don't like that. She's scary. I don't want her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, quotes Romeo and Juliet, never has there been a tale of woe. And then Mary Shelley, oh my God, what did she say? Never has there been a tale of something of of the bride and her Frankenstein. But she says it loud enough. Everyone in the room who's alive looks up.
yeah. So I'm like, so are we in a? Is this the Truman Show? Like, has she been
Like,
Truman Showing this whole thing?
what is happening? She also starts off, she's like, I'm going to make a story about the Bride of Frankenstein. What should your name be? And the Winite is like, I like the bride. She's like, oh,
Well,
yes.
that's the
Like,
one.
girl, that was the title of the book.
And I get it
Come
because they're
on.
kind of like, oh, we don't want you to be owned by a man. So I get that part, but there's a cleaner way to do that than what they gave us.
Maybe name the bride. Still a title.
Give her a different name. Yeah.
Um,
Or just call her
yeah,
Ida. Like, why are we? She
I'd
has a
have gone
name.
by something else. Another line that I was like, I like that. That's very
Yeah.
silly. It's such a shame because the movie has such cool effects and Christian Bale and everybody else is just doing so good and
The
there's
makeup
so
on him is
many
amazing. The makeup he has
so
is fantastic.
it's so good and creepy and there are so many interesting ideas that would have related to now. As much as I'm like, shut up, male loneliness problem, we could have played with that in an interesting
Hmm.
way. We could have played with we can feminism in another interesting
Yeah.
way. We could have played with this parasocial relationship that he has with people in an interesting way.
Hmm.
But there is zero growth for any of these
I
characters
think that's yeah,
because
like there's no arc to anyone.
in the original book it's similar enough. I'm gonna make my bride, and then at the end he's like me, and she's like no, and Frankenstein's monster has to like everyone else.
Yeah,
She hates me like everyone else
correct.
does.
Yeah.
There is, and it's a tragedy in that way of like it doesn't. Even if I try to make somebody who is like me, I am
Not
still
guaranteed.
a
I'm so
monster.
monster. Yeah. And that
I'm
one's great
still
because The Bride of Frankenstein, the original one, that whole movie, there is no bride until the last 5 minutes of the movie. So
yeah.
it's literally his arc of spending his entire existence like, I need to create this woman. And he finally does. And after in the movie, she's like, nah. And you're like, oh, that's big. Where then to
That
flip and have this
sucks.
movie
Yeah.
where you're like, yeah, we can do this. I'm okay. It's fine.
And I think that story could grow a lot because I think it's very easy to take that and be like, yeah, that's how it is. People still have independence and agency. And just
Correct.
because I've made you from nothing. It gives you
Doesn't mean
nothing.
you can own
We've been
me.
telling
Yeah.
that story since Adam and Eve. Like
Correct.
we've been doing that the whole time. I do think there is something to starting that story quickly and then letting a character learn how to, and it's probably actually kind of a story that we would need of like, hey, I get it. Rejection sucks. And you did all these things because you thought it was going to make this person love you and it doesn't. But guess what? Get over it. But if he could have found a way, which he does, to accept her, and if he could have found a way to accept that this movie star is a movie star, it would have been interesting to see him go into a more like healthy type of
Hmm.
masculinity and to watch her
Yeah.
effect on the suffrage and the problems that women have and finding a way to have that met and then go attack the gangster. You could have
Hmm.
played with a lot more
Like they grow in
interesting,
their
meaty
relationship
things.
and care and honest care of each other. And then in that she tells him, "Hey, this is how I got here." And he's like, "Oh, we'll say less. Let me let's go knock this
Yeah.
dude out."
Because it is easy because I do it all the time to dismiss loneliness and male loneliness and
Hmm.
whatever people are talking about. But like doing it through the lens of Frankenstein as a monster and then kind of taking a stance to almost try to be like, how can we make the unlovable person, if not lovable, accept the type of love that he's getting
That
and
he can give.
accept
Yeah.
that he's not really as alone as he thinks. He
Yeah.
can be at the whatever they call it lab with her and he can
Hmm.
go hang out with the bride and he can prove to these detectives that he's not evil and he can enjoy the movie and know that they're not buddies. There was a lot to do there and instead we kind of just kept falling back on I'm a monster
Yeah. Yeah.
and then shot him in the head and then brought him back to life and they hold hands, leaving me to be like, what is this about?
That was my whole thing is when
What are
they
we
did
trying?
the shot and finished and closed the shot out of the main movie on them holding hands. I was like, well, now I definitely don't know what the conceit of this film was. Like, I don't know what you were trying to, what the message you were trying to get across. There's five of them in here, and you have not closed out one of them. I don't know what the message of this movie is.
Because I do think it's interesting to have her reject him again as being his bride, killing him and then she risks her life to bring him back. I think if there was
Hmm.
one more scene where he was like, "But you don't want to be with me," and she could have been like, "No, no, 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 no. I like this. I don't want to be your bride.
Right, right.
Don't,
Like, yeah,
but I also don't want you dead."
correct. Yeah,
Like
like
that.
I
That
still
would have
want
made the
us to
movie.
be, yeah.
That would have elevated it 3 points in my book. It
Hmm.
just one simple thing, and instead we have to I don't even know. I just don't know. It bombed. Nobody knows.
Yeah, yeah, like no one's seeing this. And it's weird because I think those trailers did a really good, I thought they did anyway. They did a good job of
Oh,
conveying
they
to
did a
me
good
like,
job of getting me to get a ticket. They did a
yeah,
terrible
like I was
job of
like,
telling me what the movie was.
correct. I had no idea what the film was, but I was like, oh, this looks like a stylish, like I love the style they're doing, the little dance numbers. I was like, cool. But now when I see it in the context of the film, I'm like these dance numbers don't really make a lot of sense. Her at the club, that one makes sense, but the one that they did at the dinner with Jake Gyllenhaal's character. I was like, well, huh? And so there's a
Yeah,
lot of stylizing that I think you got off of that. The poster looks cool. Her little with the black stuff, like all of the imagery that exists around this looked good, but clearly not good enough that actual people went to the theater to watch it.
yeah. It almost has that like early 2000s like underworld, not like vibe, but the way where it's like, man, this is cooler than the movie. Like
Yeah,
the movie is cooler than the movie, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Like it's if you had put like music over this whole movie,
And I think to
I would
your
have been like, what
point,
a cool video.
to your point, the Underworld series kept going because at the very least it was fun. This was just it became once you put everything together, it was a slog to get through. You're like, I just
It
wasted 2 hours of my life on this.
and it's paired with really fun moments and then like way too serious moments, but the serious moments don't matter.
Yeah. Like, and
But
I do
yes,
wish that this leaned more into either being a horror monster movie or a Bonnie and Clyde. Like you got to pick one
Pick
of
one.
them. Yeah,
Pick
you got
one.
to pick one of them. And the fact that you tried to do three, it just didn't work. I think it's made what like 5 million. Like no one.
Uh, 7.3 as of
Okay,
right now on a $90 million to
yeah,
produce.
that's a bomb and a C
59 Rotten
plus
Tomatoes, C plus.
cinema score. Which for those who don't know, anything below a B is terrible. Like C plus means people are coming out of the theater like Blake and I are like, what was that?
I think we can pretend that this is Paramount's first Warner Brothers movie and be like, see, they shouldn't have bought it. Um, I don't know. I really think this is one. If I was like an analyst, I think the easy thing is like, well, there's been a lot of horror movies this year and they've all done well, and you're just the sixth one out, so people are tired. But I think the honest truth is these were confusing trailers and no one cared, and everyone went to go see Hoppers instead.
Yeah.
I think
They're like,
people
we're
can.
going to spend our, we're going to do our family weekend and go see Hoppers and
Audiences are
avoid this.
smart.
Yeah.
They're smarter now. They saw those. Everyone saw those trailers.
And I think,
They were.
and I
They
do think
were
there's
as
a,
equally as like what as we were.
I do think we're in a world where people are picking and choosing a little bit more. And I think with both Project Hail Mary and Ready or Not, which is a horror this kind of fits in this vein the following week, people kind of just like, we'll hold. We don't need to go see that. We're fine.
I'm almost even like of just the even the horror trailers that I'm getting. I'm like, okay, this is going to be the whole year. We're going to do The Mummy. We're going to do Ready or Not. We're going to
And
do
I like horror and but some of they're throwing so maybe because I've nothing I've seen this year has all been horror movies, but I'm like I'm they're now becoming impossible to pull away from each other. They all become one big like oh that's the same. Like I like The Mummy, but I'm like this feels a lot like Evil Dead. Like this doesn't feel
yep.
that different than
It doesn't
that.
feel. I mean, we'll talk about The Mummy when we talk about The Mummy, but I still think what The Invisible Man did so well
Hmm.
was modernize it that way, and I feel like, and it made it feel unique. Where I
Yeah,
think
and
this
then
Mummy, I'm
there's
like,
like
yeah,
it's like
I've seen this 1,000
yeah, we're
times.
gonna take the Evil Dead Rise and just put the Mummy skin on top of it and call it a day.
We're gonna make it gross with the
Yeah,
toes and the peeling of the skin.
yeah.
Uh,
But that's where we
but
are
we're
with
not talking
horror.
about The Mummy. We're signing off
No.
from The Bride, and you
Yeah.
can you can leave us a review or a comment. Our YouTube channel is Hollywood Already Did It, where Terrence does the TV shows and channel trailer reviews. We're on TikTok and Twitter at Hollywood ADI. I'm at As Always Blake. Terrence is at Terrence Tatum, and we will see everybody next time.
Later.